Learning this for the first time, working without a net. There we go. There's my face. And let's see if we can switch this around. There we go. There's a better version. So you can see the website. Today, I want to talk about how you can make the most of your premium subscription. So if you're watching this as a free subscriber, feel free to look on and maybe evaluate if you want to upgrade. Anytime you do want to upgrade, you can do so. Right now, you can try it out for $1 by going to jgoot.com/dollar. There you go, shameless little plug. If you're not a member, you can try it out for $1. If you are a member, thank you for joining. This broadcast is intended for you so you can make the most of your membership. So again, please feel free to chime in from with where you're calling in from or where you're watching in from. Maybe whoever is coming from a certain territory will use that as an example. Right now, just because I'm assuming it'll be mostly Denverites, I'm gonna use the Denver territory. So a few things I want to talk about that are very common problems that people have are three key issues. And let's just jump right in with what I'm sure is the biggest issue that people have. And I hear this all the time, and they say, this is a great service, but I often check and the deals are gone by the time I check. And sometimes that is true. The average time that these sell out is just several days. However, I get feedback a lot from people who say, the trip is gone even when they check right away. And so I just want to kind of demonstrate why that might appear to be the case, but often isn't. So this trip to Croatia is something I found and posted to the site just now. As subscribers, you'll get a daily summary in the morning. I'll show you later how you can get those in real time. But anyway, this was just published this morning. And a very common complaint is that those trips aren't available. So here it is. If you could confirm that you're seeing the Croatia trip. And the key thing we're looking at is that this flight price is $514. So let's go ahead and click through on that. And I'm going to count out loud as this is loading up. So we've got 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Oh, look, and it loaded right away. Okay. Actually, this loaded right away, but when I was testing a couple other sites, I have seen this take as long as 45 seconds to load. So as you can see, these fares are hopping around. It was 514. The fare I published, this is the date that I recommended. It's 548, but it's also 508 here. Usually when you see little micro adjustments like this means there are only a handful of seats and somebody bought one or two. Usually when it's just little micro adjustments like that, that's why that is. But the thing I want to point out, let's see if we can come up with another example. Let's look at another trip. And let's just go to the next oldest one. Venezuela. Oh, I have 2 points to talk about with this. So Venezuela looks great. $687. If we click through on it, we'll see how long it takes that to load. What we're looking for is a little status bar right here when that grid comes up. So notice that it hasn't brought the grid up. Oh, and of course, just my luck, these are loading instantly for me right now, but I have seen these take as long as 45 seconds to load up. So the biggest reason that people aren't seeing the fares that I publish when they go to look, even when they look right away, is because this is a very, very complex query. Even though Kayak is a major 7 or 8 figure business, this is a very complex query. We're querying 49 different possible dates and each of those dates have anywhere from 5 to 30 different flight options. So every time we do this, this is taking a ton of time to load, and it can take 30 to 60 seconds on a computer, and it takes even longer from a mobile phone. So I hope that clarifies that, and that if you guys are continuing to have issues, feel free to comment. There's always a comment section at the bottom of those posts, and we can look into it. But typically when you're not able to find a flight, that's often why. So the name of the game there is be patient, make sure it fully loads. Watch that little status bar that is right here. It's really skinny. It's not very easy to see if you're not looking for it, but I've seen it just take forever to kind of scroll across the page. And even once it gets all the way right here to like 90%, all of these fares could be double, triple the price, and then all of a sudden they all load up. So hopefully that clears that up as far as not finding trips that I publish and not seeing the prices match up. So another common thing that I get is, how do I find a trip to such and such a place? The big thing to know is this is not like a Travelocity or not like an Expedia, in that we don't store billions of different flight options. We cherry pick just the cheapest 0.1%, as in I evaluate and look for the cheapest 1 in 1,000 flights out there, and I try to mix it up. I try to make sure I've got something for everyone, some domestic, some Caribbean and Mexico, some Asia, etc. But it's just about 1 in 1,000 trips that I find that I've determined to be even better deals than redeeming miles if you have miles. But sometimes if you just really want to get to Mexico or to a certain destination, the easiest way to see if I have found anything, again, there's not always a guarantee because of the way that I select deals, but the best way to do that would just be right here in the search window. The important thing is to make sure that you're logged into your territory. Don't do it from the home page. That's for free subscribers. That's where I give travel tips. The closest you would get would be blog posts that I wrote about a certain area, but you wouldn't find trip updates. So the key is to check your email, log into your home territory. In this case, it's Denver, but every territory is set up the same. And all you do is go to this little search window here, and you can check it out and just go, I don't know, if you want to go to Paris, just do a quick search from within your home territory. And there are all of the trips that we've found to Paris. Paris, France, flight and 7 nights for $570. Paris, France, round trip flight and 15 nights, $722. We do our best to keep these up to date. We mark them as sold out after we've verified that those fares are no longer available. But again, we can't keep on top of these. So sometimes they will sell out, but just keep that 60-second rule in mind. One of the reasons, I was just getting asked this by a consultant who's helping me out, and he said, why don't you just take them down? And the biggest reason we leave those up is so that even if all you see is trips that are sold out, at least that way you get to have a benchmark of prices that we have found in the past. And typically, whatever we've found in the past will often repeat itself, and that way you can have an idea of how often we're finding stuff and how often you can expect that to pop up. And that'll give you an idea of how patient you need to be if you're waiting to go to a certain place. So I've seen a lot of feedback here. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your comments. Jessica says, one of the things I have trouble is when I try to look for a family of 4, the page isn't available or doesn't exist. That's a good point. I did notice that there's something wrong with that. I'll show you how to work around that. We'll fix that link issue, but I'll show you how to work around that. So every trip that we publish, let's just say this Let's go back to one we know for sure is still available. So let's go to that Croatia one. A couple things to keep in mind when you click on the different options. By default, these prices assume double occupancy and they are on a per person price. This flight price, 514, actually it doesn't matter how many passengers, that should remain relatively the same. But on these package prices, flight plus basic hotel, this is a clickable link. This price assumes 2 of you go, and that is the per person price. If you're going solo, you can skip straight to 1 passenger and see what that price is. It'll probably be a little more because you are paying for the hotel by yourself. If you choose 3 or 4 travelers, the price will be a little less because you are fitting 3 people into a room, and the prices were based on 2 people per room. This link, I do believe, is broken, and we will fix that. But the way you work around that, if you are traveling with 4 passengers, is to just click the default link and notice right up here, this is assuming 2 travelers. So, oh, here we go. Here's that example of it taking forever to load. So hasn't loaded yet, still hasn't. Okay, now it's fully loaded. And this is sorted by price. If you have more than or less than 2 travelers, you can just change that number right here. So change that to 4, research, and that price should drop. Again, working without a net here, no promises on that price, but that per person price should drop. And look, doesn't look like it dropped yet, but I have faith. It hasn't fully loaded. It's dropped only negligibly, but I think it has dropped a little bit. One other tip, always, if you are traveling with more than 2 travelers, pick up the phone and call whoever the carrier is with. If in this case, we can see who these are through. If you prefer Travelocity or Orbitz or whatever, you can see in advance how much it's going to cost. But whatever the case, this is one little trick that we learned. Expedia, Travelocity, all those guys charge a lot more per extra passenger. So what you do is you pick up the phone and you call and you say, well, I was going to book, but the hotel I'm booking at does not charge for more than 2 passengers or for 2 occupants. You guys do. I don't want to pay that. They'll knock that cost right off, and it can save $20 to $40 per person or per extra person by just picking up the phone and doing that. That can make a big difference on a week-long trip. So just quick little side note on that. Laura Flores has a question. Let me see here. Let's see if I can highlight it for everyone. Laura asks, how do I find trips from Denver for a specific time frame and range? So, okay, let's look at that. If you're not working for the next 6 weeks, it's early January right now. Again, this isn't a $100 million database. This is a guy with a blog doing his best to share the deals he finds with subscribers. But I do have categories that can help you narrow down on what you're looking for. So anytime, let's assume the next 6 weeks, and we can, oops, take that back off. So let's go back to the website. And up here, up top, are categories that I've tried to organize as best as possible to make it easy for you to navigate around the site. So if you're looking to just get out of town in the next 6 weeks, you would use the when category. In this case, you would want to search by month. So it's early January now. You can look in both January and February and see what trips are out there. Let's just see what's out there in February. And there you go. So these are all trips that I have found in the past that departed in February. And again, keep in mind that you can always play around with these dates. Sometimes they're hugely successful or hugely flexible. Other times, not so much. I have little notes in the posts that share how flexible those trips are. But anytime you can just look at these, and I'm not going to go with Minneapolis. The domestic trips tend to sell out faster than the international trips, probably just because of supply and demand. They happen more often. People search for them more often. They find them faster. So let's just hope and pray that this one is still available. On that note, the deeper you dig, the older those trips get. So the most important thing you want to do with your subscription is check those daily updates, because the better the deal, the faster it will sell out. But anyway, here's a trip that you could take if you want to go in February. You can also always play around with these dates to see if you can find something similar, sometimes even better. So this is just a jumping off point. On that same note, you might think, oh, well, I don't only want to go for 4 nights. I want to go for a week, or I only want to go for 3 nights. Again, you can always adjust those dates by just clicking on that default flight link and find the best dates that work for you and see if there's a good price for that. So we're waiting for that to load up. Still loading, still loading, still loading. There we go, almost loaded. Gosh, let's see, here's a prime example. These things take forever to load. This looks like it's got a lot of flexibility on when you can play around with those dates. So yeah, plenty of sub $300 flights to, what was it, Cozumel? No, Cancun. And just play around. As soon as you find a date that is different from that bullseye date that I recommended, then you want to just stick on Kayak and just toggle over to packages, see what kind of price you can get by bundling a hotel and so on. But the key is always to find the best flight price using the jumping off point that I gave you with the blog post, and then play around with it so that you can make the dates work for you, or so that you can find dates that will fit with your schedule. And again, the name of the game to success with the JGOOT way of travel is find the deal first and then figure out how to make your schedule work to get that deal. So Laura, I hope that question, I hope I answered your question there. I'm just gonna read these at random. Cecilia asks, summertime. She says, summertime is high season in Europe. Do you see many deals that time of year? All the time. The biggest thing with this is I don't even really pay attention to shoulder season versus peak season versus whatever. Great deals happen during peak season. Great deals happen over the most popular week of the year during winter break around Christmas and New Year's or Hanukkah. Great deals happen all the time. The key is just to have the patience and persistence to watch them. That's why I have this service, because it's not usually worth any one person's time to watch all these destinations. And that's why we do this service. So that's the long answer to your question. The short answer is yes, absolutely. And here's how to find them. Here, just for fun, let's switch to LA since Cecilia is from LA. And here we go. So here's LA. We're still dealing with the win category. And remember, I organize things either by month or by popular times of travel. A lot of people say, oh, well, you know, I'm not a college student, so this doesn't apply to me. This is actually designed for families with kids in school. So any of these type things are when kids are out of school, whether they're in college or like my kids in middle school, high school, etc. So summer trips, here you go. Here are all the trips that you can find over the summer. So you can either search that way, and that will show you anything and everything that I have found that are during summer months, or you can go to the where category and you can search for Europe. So this is not, Europe is not organized by time. And unfortunately, because this is a blog and because I've built this myself, you have to choose one or the other. We're working on enhancements sometime later this year. But for right now, you can search for either Europe or summer, and you should be able to find what you're looking for with not too much trouble. This is also the reason I quickly include the months you can typically find these travel deals. So everything is based on when we found that best price, but then we indicate how easy it will be to find that same price or similar prices in other months. And there's usually a 2 to 4 month window where you can play around with the dates and find these prices. So Cecilia, hopefully that answered your question. Thank you very much. So many great questions. Let's see. Forgive me as I'm learning how to use this live cast. It's called BeliveBeLive.tv, allowing me to do a lot more cool stuff on Facebook Lives. So let's see here. How do I show other questions? Jay Pollard, thanks. Excited to see you on board. Homer, how do you switch origins? Well, so everything right now, my service is based on, it's territory based, and 98% of my subscribers only look from their home airport. I don't currently have the ability to search from different territories. Again, once I have programmers help me enhance this and take it off of WordPress and get onto a more stable platform, we will have that ability. But right now, the territory that you sign up in is the only area that you have access to deals. Bill Galvin asks, Kayak versus Google. How can I change? Here we go. Bill says, how do we choose Kayak versus Google versus Momondo? What do I use for what purpose? That's a very good question. By all means, if you're serious about travel, mine is just one of many resources you should use. I typically prefer, I like Kayak because it works for me, but that's a personal preference. Google Flights, same thing. Travelocity, Expedia, same thing. I typically use a Kayak or a Google Flights. I don't use Momondo much. I know other services recommend it. I'm not a fan. I prefer Kayak. 90% of my work I do on Kayak. But I either use Kayak, Google Flights, one of those type services, a travel search engine for date-specific searches. So, for example, if I have specific places I'm looking to go to, if you're a subscriber, you can just subscribe to Spring Break or summer trips or whatever, and keep an eye on what I do, which is I cherry pick the best of the best deals. If you're keeping an eye on, I don't know, if you want to go to Cancun over Spring Break, that's a state-specific search. Your odds of finding a good deal on that are going to be pretty slim. That's why I advise this way, because maybe you'll go to Belize instead, or Cabo, or Aruba. But if you got your heart set on Cancun at a specific date, set up a fare watch for those specific dates. If you've got your heart set on Croatia, let me show you another workaround. You could go and do your own search, but if you're a paid subscriber and you have your heart set on a certain thing and you're not checking my emails every day, or you don't want to have to check my emails every day for the off chance that I found something to Croatia that day, you can go to this search window. And I showed you how to do this before, but let's take it one step further. So Croatia. will show you all the trips that I've found to Croatia. And you can do two things. You can just bookmark this page, and then you'll just see, oh, that's not a pretty set of pictures. Oh, well. It serves its purpose. You can find the trips. But notice that you could just bookmark this page and go back and check that every once in a while. Or you can copy this page. So Control-C, or here, I'll do it visually. Copy. And then I have a video tutorial on how to do this, but what the heck, let's do this now. You go to a site called Blogtrotter. Come on. Notice it's missing the E. Blog, T-R-O-T-T-R. And this will take any category that you can find on my website, including a search category, a category you searched for, and you can just tell them, alert me whenever Joel posts a deal to that location. So you can do that for specific locations, or you can do that for any of these categories. So if you just want to go to a warm beach, you can bookmark that beach category and go to that site called Blogtrotter, and Blogtrotter will give you a daily digest or real-time updates or whatever you like. So, Bill, I hope that question answered, or I hope that answered your question. What else have we got here? Gosh, tons of stuff. And I'd like to keep these short, so I'm going to try to cherry pick questions and answers, and then I promise I'm going to start doing more of these for you. Let me see if there are any other questions. How do I hide the last one? I don't know. Summertime. Oh, by the way, if you guys could help me out and just type in that Blogtrotter address so future viewers can see that and just go check it out, that would be very helpful. And you know what? I'm just going to do this to get rid of the last comment from Bill. If anybody's watching who isn't a member, feel free to check it out for $1. I've got a 30-day trial. Would love to help you get inspired to just get out of town more often. Any hint for Alaska cruise from Raleigh after June 11th? So thanks for that question. You're going to have to get to the West Coast. And I would say just more than anything, keep an eye on deals to Seattle. I know Seattle, Vancouver, anywhere on the West Coast, LA, San Diego, and San Francisco. All of those have cruise ports. Ooh, that reminds me of something else. So if you are a cruiser, if you like cruises, there are a couple things you can do. So you can just watch for fares to places that have cruise ports. And this is one of my other favorite features. So Mehul, thank you very much for that question. I'm going to show you one other way to watch for cruises. Won't necessarily be guaranteed to be Alaska cruises, but they will be cruises. So I have a category called, where is it? Where? Cruises. So these are, every trip that I publish is the exact same format. It's revolved around a really, really cheap fare that I found, because if you can get yourself there for $500 less per person and you have 4 travelers, you're going to save $2,000 just by doing that. So keep that in mind with every trip that you look at. But if you like cruises, this is a great feature because we keep track of all of the destinations that have cruise ports near them. So every one of these trips, I'm going to answer 2 questions here. So every one of these trips, this New Orleans or New York? Let's go with New York. My cute little kids a few years ago on a fun trip we took to New York. Oh, great. Murphy's Law, I got logged out. When did I get logged out? There we go, log in. Okay, so now we got to go back there. Sorry, I do acknowledge that this when you have to log back in, it takes you back to the home page. We'll just quickly get back to cruises. We'll go back to the New York trip. And again, apologies, working out without a net here. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen when you're live. So, two things. Every once in a while, my proofreaders let me know that I've got a dangling bullet. So anytime that I publish a trip that is to an area where there is not a cruise, you see just this empty bullet. And that's because I'm not a programmer, and that bullet is reserved for areas that have cruise ports in them. So again, the philosophy here is $163 is a pretty good price. So if you can get yourself there for $163, here is a link to cruises that you can take during that cheap window of time when you can get a cheap flight. So anytime that you, if you are a cruiser, that's one great resource for you. Hope that answered your question. Let's just get those to load up for fun. I don't know. Oh well, we're live. I'm moving on. So let's see. Jessica, great, thanks. Date posted, not travel dates. Bill, let's see. On these postings you're looking at, is there a way to add the date to the title we see? Bill, really, there's only so much real estate in the subject, and I try to keep it both as accurate, but as well as making sure that info fits in the subject. And that's the reason that we do windows of time that you can find this. The other reason I do that is because I don't want people to think that that's the only dates that they can go. There is usually some flexibility to these trips. So I publish the windows of time that you can find these trips, and then the link goes to where I know for a fact that I found the best price possible. Oh, and Bill, you're asking about date posted. I was noticing that that's a feature that's missing, and it would be nice to see how long ago I published it. But again, I don't know how much weight you want to put on that, because I was just looking and there was a sleeper fare that I found over a month ago that was still available. So I don't know that you would necessarily want to assume that something's gone just because it's an old post. I try to make it so that you can just quickly check and see if it's available. If it's not, drop a comment in the bottom, let us know, and we can verify that it has in fact sold out, and we'll mark it as such to save you that time. So please feel free to use that comment section and help us keep the site up to date. Well, let's see. Lots and lots of questions. Thanks so much, everyone. Vincent, thanks for that blog trotter link. My live, Marianne. Oh, I think I answered your question, Marianne. She asks, I know flexibility is key when taking advantage of JGOOT fares. However, is there any way to have a focus on what's available around the US holidays? Yes, I'll just go ahead and show it again. That is under that when category. So by month you can do, or I do pretty much most of the major holidays that both employers give days off for, as well as when schools are out. So hopefully that answers your question, Marianne. Thanks. Don't know how to hide it, so I'm just going to do it this way. So again, anybody watching this who's not a member, you're welcome to go and look at the territories, but the details are redacted. There's a sign up link right there, or you can just go to jgoot.com/dollar and check it out. I'd love to show you how to travel more and spend less. On that note, again, the big thing here is my philosophy with my travels. And I just did an analysis, and my last 10 trips we paid about 11 cents on the dollar. And the way we do that is we find the deals first and we figure out how to schedule around those deals. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But with the prices that we pay, it's usually well worthwhile to take that extra day off of work, or maybe sometimes we have to pull the kids out for an extra day of school, which is that's straight A students. That's a big negotiation in our house. But if you can save $300, $400, $500 a person by just simple changes like that, that means for more travel by spending less, or better hotels, or more excursions, or whatever. So the philosophy, the JGOOT way, is find the deals, schedule your time around those. So we can make that go away. Okay, Homer, very good question. Homer says, I've got a few Facebook pages or groups out there for JGOOT. Can I run through other resources out there and what their purpose is? So this one, where I'm doing this Facebook Live, is my main page. This is where I give tips and tricks for free subscribers. And I encourage you to go through that. There are plenty of videos on how you can go do what I do yourself. Quite frankly, my subscription service is designed so that you don't have to do that. But hey, if you prefer to do stuff yourself, if it's helping you travel more, that's what Just Get Out of Town's main Facebook page is for. My blog, just by going to justgetoutoftown.com, is another resource. I try to give insights, tips, inspiration, etc. So that's another resource that is worth bookmarking and keeping an eye on, because I try to keep that current with plenty of tips and tricks and area reviews and so on. I have area-specific Facebook pages, but unfortunately those are probably going to get phased out. 2019, I had to make the decision to no longer give the free trip alerts out to free subscribers, because my paying subscribers were complaining of those trips selling out too soon. That has made a big difference. We have noticed that these trips are staying on the shelves longer, and that's the point of paying for a premium subscription. So where's another resource? I do have another Facebook page as a member. I highly, highly recommend that you do it. And that's with every daily update that you get as a paying member, there's a link at the bottom of that links to our private Facebook member group that is our point hacking discussion group. That's a topic for another webinar, which I will gladly do, but I have webinars in there. You can ask any question that you like. The JGOOT Way has two types of travel. Sometimes that means, let me just get this to a prettier page while we're talking. So sometimes it's just not possible to find a travel deal. When you have to go somewhere specific at a specific time, say it's weddings, job interviews, guys trips, girls trips, funerals, those type trips are very, very hard to find a good deal. Certainly not mistake fares, and it's usually a matter of luck, and it's going to be 1 in 5, 1 in 10 times that you're going to get even an okay deal. Most of the time, it's going to be very expensive. So the JGOOT way is that you should always have an emergency stash of points to be able to take those trips. It's very, very easy to obtain 50, 100, 200,000 points through just a couple simple changes to how you use your credit cards. I have an entire resource there, but that is a members only feature. Strongly recommend it. Just go and check your daily member emails, and there's an access link to that private Facebook group. There is another public Facebook group called JGOOT Village. I believe it's linked to from this JGOOT Way page. And that is more for just discussions among members with questions about how to use JGOOT and just other travel hacks in general. So I think those cover most of the Facebook pages and their purposes. Let me know if you can think of any others, but that's what I'm thinking of right now. Thank you, Homer. And am I saying that right, or is it Omar? Feel free to let me know so I don't bludgeon your name next time. Again, don't know how to make a comment disappear, so I'll just do it this way. Again, anyone who's not a member, I'd love to show you the power of the JGOOT way of travel. Just go to jgoot.com/dollar and you can check it out for 30 days for $1. Omar, sorry, I should have known that. Bill, when I'm looking at value, do I take into consideration the rate of exchange for the dollar? No, that is a very good question. The closest I come to that, I don't do that. That's a very good question because, yeah, there are certain areas where your dollar is going to go farther than others. I don't do that. Might be something to write down on the improvement list for programmers down the road. What I will say I do is there are certain areas that are a lot more expensive for lodging. Turks and Caicos is an example. We learned that after grabbing really cheap flights to Turks and Caicos and Hawaii. Those are two examples in particular that are very expensive. And although I don't take exchange rates into account, I am a lot pickier when I'm going to publish trips to those areas. So it's got to be a really, really good flight price, probably an even better deal than what I might publish to anywhere in the Caribbean, because by the time you add in that much more expensive lodging, that's going to be a much more expensive trip. So I don't ignore Hawaii or Turks and Caicos, but I'm a lot more discerning when I share those trips. Those have to be exceptional flight prices. Hopefully that answered your question, Bill. Thank you. So I think we are at about 45 minutes. I think that's probably a good cutoff time. If anybody has any other thoughts or suggestions, please feel free to chime in. I'm hoping on doing a lot more of these because that's the reason I started JGOOT. To be quite honest, I got tired of telling friends that all they have to do is travel like me and they can travel like me. So every one of these trips is exactly how I take my family on trips for about 10 cents on the dollar. And it's my passion. It's changed my life. And my goal is to help as many people as possible get out of town more often. So please feel free to like, share, comment. Let me know any thoughts or suggestions that you have. With that said, I think we should wrap this session up. Lots of great questions. I do promise to do more of these if you guys promise to show up and ask good questions. So thank you so much for all of your kind words and feedback, and I will talk to you later.